Hello, and welcome to the Redirect Podcast, where we have spirited conversations and tell stories about finding purpose in retirement. For us, retirement isn't an ending, it's a beginning. Time to redirect your energy, wisdom, and passion toward new horizons. Whether you've recently retired, are planning for that transition, or are years into this journey, this podcast is your companion in navigating this meaningful chapter of life. So hello guys. Hey, on today's Redirect Podcast, we're going to take a trip down memory lane and have a conversation on the things in our childhood or young adulthood or anything you want to talk about really that really excited us and how we can rediscover our dreams in retirement. So Adam and Curt, thank you for being part of this again. I just love the fact that we can have these conversations. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? I'm going to start with Adam.
I had a few things. I wanted to be an architect. I went to college. Additionally, I did some construction work and specifically some carpentry work. I got into cabinet making and really just loved that. So I think having some kind of maker mindset has always been part of me.
Really interesting. Curt, how about you?
As a kid, a little guy running around with no care and no worries, it was, I want to be an Air Force pilot. I want to fly. I want to go fast. I want to get up in the sky and be like a bird and just soar. And my first year at college, I was still trying to figure out what it was. And then I kept hearing reoccurring things about, boy, you'd be a good teacher. You're really good with kids. This sort of makes me smile because it goes back to the Mike Fox episode that's when the scaffolding began. And that I did end up changing my major and went to Bowling Green State University, and I got into education. And I connected it to my life because I have a brother with special needs. And then I have a son with it. But at that time, just my brother. And I wanted to figure out what made him tick. And so I ended up getting into a degree in special education. How about you, Dale? What about you?
But before we do that, I want to ask you a question. Who told you that you should be a teacher? When the transition from being a pilot to what you ended up doing, that was not something that came from your head. That came from people telling you, gee, Curt, you'd be good at that? Is that right?
When I was younger, again, we'd have cousins come visit us from California, Chicago, New York, and they'd come into the Buffalo area, and we'd all get together as a family gathering, have a reunion, so to speak. And the kids were younger than me, and I would always be out there playing with the kids. And so it was my mom as well as my aunts and uncles just sort of saw that I had that connection with them. And what was really funny, unfortunately, I don't have a real close relationship with a lot of my cousins on my mom's side, but I went to one of my uncle's funeral, and his oldest son, Sean, was there, and we were sort of talking in a group about how he used to come to Buffalo. And he said, there was this, who was the cousin that used to spend time with me and played with me? And he's talking to me about me. And I said, Sean, that's me. It was sort of cool, but it was sort of, he says, oh man, I had so much fun with you. You just made it fun. And I'm like, well, okay, there you go. So
be a teacher. All right. You were asking me, I'm sorry, there's so many similarities sometimes in our life. I wanted to be an Air Force pilot also. I think I remember having some dreams where you're flying, and I think people talk about that, and I don't know what that means or anything, but I just remember the peace and joy that you get when you were flying. And I've made models like most little guys, and my models were all of big jets and big fighter jets, and I kept that dream for a while because I ended up taking the Air Force test in high school and getting a really high grade on it. But I couldn't get a senator. I didn't have any connections to a senator that could write a letter to get me to the Air Force Academy. And the senators had already written letters for people. And they could only do 2 per state or something like that. then I think very shortly after that, I had to get some reading glasses, or I had to get glasses, and that I think took me right out of that picture. But I never lost my love of flight, because I ended up getting a job where I sat on planes for, I'm close to 5 million miles with Delta. And a close cousin of mine, his name was Tommy Reedy, and he was a Top Gun instructor. And maybe I lived a little bit through him too. And I sent Tommy a note, ran into him. He was kind of retiring from the Air Force, and he was now being a consultant, teaching other country pilots how to be fighter pilots, how to be successful fighter pilots, and how to dogfight. I was just like, oh, I'm out of my brains about that stuff. I said, Tommy, send me something that, could you just put at that time, it was a little handy cam in the cockpit, and record something and send it to me, because I want to show my boys. And sure enough, not more than a week later, I get this big VHS tape with some big glossy pictures and he flew an F-14, so the Tomcat, great pictures of him firing jets off. And all of a sudden I said, sit down, boys, we're going to watch this. I put it in, and all of a sudden he's in the F-14, they're taking off, and he's playing LA Woman, The Doors, LA Woman in the background in the cockpit. And he's got the camera up. We're talking about stories here. And he's got the camera, and oh, this is the greatest thing. Well, he's also training a young pilot to dogfight, how to dogfight. Just fascinating, and brought my dreams to life. And so close enough, but never a pilot, never had my hand on the controls.
Dale has made the comment of what happened to him as far as not being able to get to the dream of Air Force. Myself, I didn't do anything with it, but then I got into something else that I don't know if it was a dream or not, but it was fulfilling and I had fun. But Adam, let's go back to you. You mentioned an architect. What was the deterrent that turned you away from architecture?
I don't. It was an idea. I don't know that it was something I was pursuing passionately. I was just somewhat meandering in my late teens, early adult years. Didn't have a lot of direction. Didn't have a lot of motivation or encouragement. Not that I want to put my choices or behavior on somebody else, but I just didn't. There's a lot of things I just didn't do really well as an older teenager, but I did. It is interesting to me. I did find myself building things. I did find myself, and I would say most of my house, like most of the cabinets, furniture, there's lots of stuff in and around my house that I make. Okay. I've got a pretty decent workshop in my garage, and even in the function of my day-to-day work currently, it's a little less with my hands and a little more with my mouth that I build things. But yeah, no, I'm still building, and the thing that I don't have enough of in my life right now is time in my garage. That's where I get myself grounded. I get out of my own head and achieve some peace when I get to go. I'm much more work with wood than anything else, but getting a project together is exciting to me.
So if you all of a sudden, if you retired like next month, Adam, would you think you're going to find yourself in the garage? You think that will be the start of your road to contentment?
Yeah, I think as I rediscover what contentment looks like, I think finding opportunity to be in the garage, and then it's just a matter of how do I fund getting materials to build stuff. And a friend of mine said he was going to redo his deck, and I was like, hey, if you don't let me be a part of that, it's going to affect our friendship.
Now I'm thinking about all these wood projects I have at my house, Adam. I need help, Adam.
Well, like I said,
as Curt knows, I am woefully
not good at some of these projects. I wish I really would. Yeah, I would have loved woodworking, but don't have the materials and don't know my way around it. So
Yeah, we
I
took
need
down
somebody like you.
a load bearing wall in my house.
Whew, whew,
That's a lot of
that's
work.
big.
My
That's
wife and I did
big.
that.
Wow.
Not only just doing it and then putting another structure up, but recognizing that it is a weight bearing wall and all the things that you have to do in order to prepare that area in order to take it down and put it back on up is architecturally based in itself, right?
Totally. Thankfully, I over engineered it and calculated some loads appropriately, and the roof is still where it belongs.
No sagging going on at your place.
It's interesting because we all have a sparkle in our eye when we talk about this, and one of the things as we look at purpose in retirement, obviously it's your opportunity, or having we talk about freedom a lot, but our opportunity to live some of these dreams, and really interested as those were our boyhood dreams and maybe things that we did to kind of live those. But now that we're retired, we have the time. And I see a lot of statistics about the fact that we don't know how to have fun anymore as adults. And most people don't really think about those things that they used to love to do. And this is an opportunity to do them. Are you thinking about that, Curt? Start with you.
Yeah, I've done a lot of reading, obviously, in the retirement role and what to do. Not necessarily my role, but reading about retirement. And a lot of articles go back to say, if you're questioning on where you want to go next after you leave your job, it's sort of remember when, just sort of like we did. Remember what we wanted to do as a kid. Remember how we played as a kid. Remember how we explored as a kid. And it is refreshing to do that. But as adults, we don't necessarily see like a kid anymore because of this thing called adulthood. I mean, there's a Brian Tone from Crossroads just released something today. We're going to do a study over the summertime about having fun in the summertime, right? Think of the Sly Stone song. He says research, most adults have forgotten what joy, lightness, and fun mean. 56% of adults admit that they've lost their sense of fun, and this begins as early as the age of 27 years old. And 97 adults consider fun as important, but only half are making time to do it on a regular basis. And I see a kid that doesn't have guide rails, that doesn't have restriction. They're going out and exploring, and to use your wonderful word, Dale, they're having an adventure. And they find new things. And it's sort of a presence of mind that we always associate with a kid. But do we do that as adults? I don't think we do it as much as we should, obviously, from what some of the stats said that I just read. Thoughts?
I think, it's fascinating. When I was out golfing yesterday with a friend who is retiring from being a doctor. He's been very successful doctor. And every time we have a conversation, he starts talking about the next thing that he's doing. And he's close to my age. He's, between 65 and 70. I don't know exactly when. But he just bought a windsurf. Right? He bought this thing that, that has a foil on it that you go and take out into the really windy areas of an ocean, and you've got a kite. It's kite surfing. It's whatever. My body is so broken, I would kill something. I would fall apart if I tried something. Although in my mind, I'm like, wow, wouldn't that, then you've got to go get lessons. And his wife just bought him this thing, and they're going to go down to Bonaire in January, and he's going to go do it. And he's the biggest, and I love this, the biggest kid that I know, but he gets so excited about talking about it. It's one of the things that when I travel, when I go on adventures, every day I try to find a local and I ask them, if you had the day off, what would you do? And you get the sparkle in their eye. Well, I love the beach, or I'm going to go do this. But all of a sudden you find out and learn for yourself, like what there is to do in that part of the world and what people love to do. And it's kid-like. It is kid-like. I mean, I see it in their face. They're smiling. If I was to say, Adam, you had the day off tomorrow, what would you do that day? Do you see that as what an opportunity, because I've got the time off to go do something I've not done that I've been wanting to do? Or how do you think about that?
I loved all of that. I think, and I'll get to your question in just a moment. It is interesting to me that all three of us have boys, like all boys. I didn't realize that until just a moment ago. And I don't know what it was like for you with your boys, but when my kids were young, we had dinner, we cleaned up from dinner, we took care of a couple of things, and my kids would sit on the couch, like on the edge of the couch, just with this incredible bated anticipation, like, are we ready? Is this going to go down? And we would wrestle for like an hour, and it was violent and loud, and man, they loved it. And we just roared and played, and I threw them around, never got hurt, thankfully. I'm talking about myself. I mean, they also never got hurt, but we got to a point where they were big enough that they actually, when they would jump and dive off the back of the couch and land on me, it started to hurt a little bit. So we had to start shutting that down. Curt, I see the way you're reacting, and that resonates with you.
Oh, it must have been in some parenting book, because after dinner, we would move the table, we'd move the couch and clear this huge opening in our family room area. And we'd play, it'd start out playing knee hockey. All right. But then all of a sudden, the gloves come off and we're wrestling and carrying on. And it's got to the point where we are all sweating. They all pile up on dad. I'm picking them up by one arm and throwing them, and they're laughing. I mean, we'd have a blast. And it was like, and doing that with my kids made me feel like a kid again.
Oh, yeah.
Made me feel like a kid again.
And the toys they used to get, I was excited about playing with them too, especially when they were young, because when they were little, it was Hot Wheels and such, and that takes me back. That takes me back to when I was a little boy in my house. So I grew up in Cincinnati, in the neighborhood of Northside, and the houses were row houses. So they were, 16 feet wide and 45 feet deep and 7 feet apart. It was 4 feet of sidewalk and 3 feet of grass, but the sun never shone in that area, so it was all dirt. We played Hot Wheels for months during the summer, me and 3 dudes from my neighborhood, when we were, 6 years old. And it was just bliss. It was just that that childish, playful flow. I think you get into this flow where all I'm focused on is I'm playing in this moment. And, what comes from that? Sometimes it's creativity. Sometimes it's, just some kind of intense contentment.
Make believe,
imagination, man. Yeah. I'm in a different place right now, playing with these Hot Wheels in the dirt. So yeah, I think that's what I remember.
It's just, I can see us all smiling. I just love talking about this. For me, my father and we boxed. My dad had boxing gloves. Mm-hmm. Big old cushion gloves. You couldn't hurt somebody, but by God, you could swing a lot. And and when my boys were growing up, we would rope off the living room like you're in the ring. We'd try to find rope it off. But the look on my wife's face when I showed up with boxing gloves, are you kidding? What is, she grew up as the youngest of 3 in California. I don't think they ever saw a boxing glove. We'd always have 4 gloves, so you couldn't have 3 going at once, only 2. we knew we weren't really going to hurt each other. And it was funny because I just came off a week's vacation, and one of the most fun things we did, I have a 3-year-old grandson, and we go out to the ocean, and his big deal is running into the ocean, running back. And then I'm like, wait a second, let's go out a little deeper and fall in the ocean. And I just get on my back and do this, and he loved it. And all of a sudden he's jumping on me. So we're like kind of wrestling in the water, but he's jumping on my stomach. And I'm at the point where I wonder if something's going to break, but I don't care. I don't care. Jump on me. Everybody's like, oh, be careful with Pops. I'm Pops to them. Be careful with Pops. And everybody's looking out for him.
Nope.
You know what? Beat me to death. I don't care. If I die here, I'll be happy. So what does that look like in retirement for us?
We will rejoin our conversation in just a moment. Thank you for listening to the Redirect Podcast. We appreciate your support. Do you love what you're hearing? Don't keep it to yourself. Follow the Redirect Podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify and never miss an episode that inspires your next chapter in life's journey. While you're there, hit a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share your favorite episode with a friend who's ready for their own life pivot. And don't forget to join the conversation on Instagram at The Redirect Podcast. Comment, tag us, and let us know how you are redirecting your journey. Now let's get back to today's conversation. There, real quick, Adam, Dale just shared a thing that he did with his grandkids. Do you have childlike aspects with your grandkids?
Oh my gosh, so much, and it causes friction between me and my wife, because
of course,
I let them get away with murder, like actually murder. I'm on the run for it right now.
Shouldn't have said that publicly. Man.
That's right. We'll edit that out. Right. No, I let them get away with everything because I'm not their parent. That let discipline, I'm not going to go erode their discipline, but I'm also not going to enforce and create discipline for myself. Stay in the yard. Don't stand on your brother's face, and let's have some fun. And so just Father's Day, they were all over and we just out there having a blast. And this idea of this ball, just silly inflatable thing, dodgeball kind of ball, they got the hugest kick out of just chucking it up on the roof and letting it, I've got a ranch house and letting it just come back down. And as you guys know, whatever little kids enjoy doing, you better be ready for them to do that for like the next 3 hours. Mm-hmm. If it's fun for them, they don't want to stop. And they're content with just throwing this ball up on the roof for the next 3 hours. And it was so simple. Such a nothing little exercise. And I don't know if they'll remember that for the rest of their life. I know I will. But I think it creates bonds between them and I that will last for the rest of their life.
So Dale, you were going to go someplace else. Where are you going to go here?
I'm going to our freedom of time and redirection. Everybody always wants you to make lists, and you're thinking about, hey, what's my plan? What are my lists? Somebody asked me a couple months ago now, what is it that you love to do? And it's kind of like what we're talking about. What do you love to do? And you have the opportunity to do that. And of course, we go back to thinking about, what's our plan? What's our overall plan? And I can honestly say, serve God, serve family, serve others who need help. And I was going to say, but if I think about what I love to do, I can say being a grandparent to relive my childhood is part of this. Being Pops, I'm the guy. I am the bad guy. Can I tell you? Like we all are. I think I'm the guy that said I can't wait to get on the vortex at Kings Island. Not that the vortex is gone. I think it's gone, but the Beast. And of course, his mom, my daughter-in-law, like, there's no way I'm letting you take him to Kings Island. I said, oh yeah, I'll get him. Sometime I'll get him to Kings Island. We're gonna
look over there.
But my heart soared a couple of days ago. He just celebrated his 3rd birthday, and they bought him an LGB train set. And again, it's like my childhood. I still have LGB stuff in the basement. I can't wait to drive it up to them now and say, by the way, here's more LGB stuff. And when we were at the condo last week, we were sitting on the couch, and I said, well, they wanted a rest time. Everybody wanted a rest time. So we're sitting on the couch, turn on the TV. What do you want to watch? He goes, trains. And there's videos of just trains, in Colorado, trains in Canada, trains in the Alps. Fascinating. It was almost as good as looking at fighter jet videos, but it's the opportunity for us to feel that for cycling for me is really a reflection of the freedom I feel when I'm out there on two wheels. I'm just going. And that's why I love to do that. And one of the things I love to do in retirement, I love being a grandfather. I love cycling. But another thing that just brought me so much joy from my childhood was I grew things. And I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and we had what we called gangways between the houses, which was about 12 feet. And there was a fence, and underneath the fence was this much dirt. You had dirt for your little race cars, Adam. I had dirt to plant corn, and I would plant corn right down the middle of it. And it would grow, and the sewer rats would eat it every year I did it. I didn't care. I love, and that's what explains me being out in the garden now, my own garden, spend so much time out there. But that's a childhood thing that I just love to grow plants. And that's part of being retired. The more I think about it, the more things I think, oh my gosh, photography and being a master garden, and all these things start bubbling up, and I think we have to make decisions. But those are things that truly make me smile and make me happy.
What influences take us away from that? Why don't we do that as adults?
I think it's really easy. When you are coming out of your teens into your 20s, somebody wrote a book recently that decade by decade book suggests that your 20s you're trying to find your own way in life, and it becomes about surviving and trying so desperately to just make your own way, and whether or not you get into relationships that produce kids or not, and whether or not you come out of college with a really good stride moving forward to build your career and possibly wealth. That's not common that's not the most common way. The most common way is struggle. And so you become so overtaken that decades do start to slip by, that you're trying so hard to make your way in life. And then all of a sudden you do have a couple of kids bouncing around, and the need to provide for them and educate them and grow them, it becomes your focus becomes so much about them and your career and all of that. It's consuming, and it consumes your capacity for fun first. And then I think it consumes your interest in fun last.
Not sure I could say it any better. I think what immediately got in the way, I just, you hit the word survive, I'm just survivor mode. I was over actually in Europe and on the beaches of where D-Day was.
Normandy.
More Normandy. I kept thinking Tuscany, but Normandy. And I ran into a guy from the south side of Chicago on that trip, and he looked at me and he said, "So how did you survive?" Just to kind of tell me. And it was, I thought back, and it was, all I wanted to do was to get a great job and kind of get out of the south side of Chicago and go make a living and get as much, money as I could back then. It was dry. And that whole survivor mentality really kind of rips the guts out of, hey, what do I just love to do that I would do if I had the day off? Because everything was about growing something then. Everything was about building something. Everything was about accumulating. You're accumulating stuff. And I think you forget for a lot of us, we didn't have the time to have fun, but we kind of forgot how to have fun.
When we were boys, playing with Hot Wheels in the dirt in the side yard. We didn't care what other people thought. We had no expectations about trying to present ourselves in a certain way. We wanted people to think about us in a certain light. Nope. We were just in the dirt pushing Hot Wheels around. And I think we're also, as we get into young adulthood and then onward, I mean, even I would hazard a guess, even still today for retired folks, there is some, pressure to abide by a societal norm.
Yeah.
And that does not look like reckless, playful innocence. Do you agree with that?
I read this article in Psychology Today from Dr. Jordan Grummett, and he did it on May 26, 25. And it says, the title of it is What Kids Can Teach Us About Purpose. And he brings up in this article about big P's and little P's. And I'm not talking vegetables, Dale. Big
I love peas.
Yeah, I know you do. He's talking about purpose, obviously, but the big P. And he says, in adult life, our big P's are tied to career milestones, societal contributions, which is what you were just talking about, Adam, or legacy. But we need to re-engage ourselves into little P purposes that are activities that bring immediate joy and satisfaction. Seems like we're going back to the contentment conversation, aren't we? As well as how we're doing in our retirement, a checkup. This is sort of bringing us back to the point to say, do we still, as retired individuals in the next journey of our existence, are still viewing things in a big P, big purpose, versus letting go of all of the outside forces that define what purpose is, as opposed to just looking at the little P's and focusing on things that are right in front of us, and to let that childhood nature sort of ooze out of us and then see where it goes.
I think there's a lot of science to support as well that if you laugh more, that if you engage in those kinds of behaviors that create joy, that create frivolity, and create a sense of happiness, and specifically laughter, if you can find yourself engaged in those activities, it dramatically increases your longevity, your quality of life, and your cognitive function.
I think, in the supportive to that, I thought about childhood and the things that we did on the spur of the moment. And that was All-American Eagle and tag and all those games that we wouldn't go out and play ourselves. I mean, whoever went out and played by themselves was kind of a loner. You grabbed a couple. I lived on a block where there were 128 kids, plus or minus 4 years of me. We had a game and a team the minute you walked out the door. And I think in our redirected years here, we got to go find those groups. We got to go find those people to go laugh with, to your points, Adam. We gotta have those people that challenge us. I mean, my wife and I have disagreements because I'm still from the South Side, and we play a game or play anything, and I'm like, and I'll give her grief, and I'll give her talk that she hates to get into because I'm, how did you get that? I wish I just get into this thing, and she just doesn't. I love it. It's banter. It's how you compete, and it's having fun doing it. But trash talking, she doesn't get. But she grew up. We trash talked the minute we walked out the door. That's just the way it is, the way it was. But that's fun. That was fun with a lot of people. Even going out, and if Curt and I are playing golf and one of us is not hitting it quite right or whatever, it's like, yeah, let's put some money on it. We'll see how that goes. And all of a sudden, a whole new, come on, let's go. But we need that. We need that fun. We need that laughter. It's just, but I think now we find out we've got to reach out. I'm sitting here at my office. I'm looking out a window, and I'm on the way to Alt Park, and I just watch cyclists and runners, but they're all kind of one-on-one, and that doesn't, I mean, I love doing it with people. I love having fun doing those things. It's like getting the All American Eagle group out, and all we did was one from these set of bushes, and try not to get tackled. How much simpler is that? Well, we could hurt each other right now, but there are things that we can do where do it with somebody else, do it with a group of people, go laugh, because I know that that's healthy for you. I know mentally that is proven that people live longer, when they've laughed more.
I mean, Dale, we started off this conversation talking about a shared interest of you and I being infatuated with the Air Force and flight. All right. So what can we do about that now? All right. Well, yeah, I could go and take flight lessons and learn how to fly a Cessna or a soaring plane or something like that. I could learn all that stuff. Sure, I can. Am I going to do that? Probably not. But we do have a friend in our Thursday morning Bible study, Steve Stenard, who builds his own model planes and then he goes out and flies them. We, if we decide to make the time to do it, could get our own kits, work with Steve, build our planes, go down there and have him teach us how to fly. And then all of a sudden, guess what? We're flying.
Or even just flying drones. I mean, you can have one delivered to your house today from Amazon, and you could be flying tonight.
It was maybe 10 years ago. Remember when they came out with the first little helicopters?
Oh,
that
God.
were little remote control
Trashed them all.
But holy cow, that was as close to flying as, I could control this thing in midair. And I mean, and that, of course, when my boys will tell you this, we spent a lot of time building and shooting off Estes rockets. And I can't wait to do that with my grandson. The minute, and I keep holding back, they keep saying, wait until he's like 5. I'm like dying to go ahead and build one and get with him but fire something off that's going to fly.
But where can you do it now, Dale? See, that's the other thing about the societal culture and restrictions. I can't run on out to a field anymore and fire up an Estes rocket like I used to as a kid, because you can't.
Yes, you can.
You're breaking into
Where can you, Adam?
You can do it anywhere. Let me tell you how. Just know, 1, don't do it at your house. And 2, you got 6 minutes. You probably got 2 great shots, and then you teach your kids how to run from the cops.
I brought the Boy Scouts. I brought the Cub Scouts down to Anderson Fields, and we started shooting them off. And I know enough that I've got 1 or 2 rockets that can go up 2,000-3,000 feet. And I got to let Lunken Airport know that I'm going to do this and that something's going to show up on radar, because it is. And they say, well, yeah, what time? And I'll give them a time. But the cops showed up and shut us down after 3 shots. Sorry, can't be shooting this stuff. You got to get permission from this person and this person. They're not going to give it to you, because it was before they really had developed all those soccer fields. But it was a perfect place to do it. And so the restriction is now it's just like, okay, go get yourself a drone, go get yourself something you can do. But it's not like doing it outside in a big field and having that.
With a group of kids.
Radio controlled planes do happen down by Lunken. And there's the group called the Cardinals out Route 8 West, where we always bike. We bike straight out Route 8 West, and there's a giant field where people show up with these radio-controlled planes, and every time they're out there, we stop, we go over there, and I just sit there and go, look at that.
Yeah.
And these guys are flying, these radio-controlled planes that, have 6-foot wingspan.
So whatever it is for you, there's a way to go get from your childhood, go get from your young adulthood, that thing that what you were passionate about. You don't have to completely give up on all of your dreams, all of the things that brought you joy. Go find ways to have laughter and enjoyment with friends and family, and go get those hobbies, those interests, those talents that you thought were gone a long time ago. Go get them, bring them into your present, and get after living.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I mean, We're talking about our kids and our boys, and I'm going to tell a quick little story. Where we birthed our children was in the Philadelphia area, Phoenixville, outside of Valley Forge. And we lived in a townhouse complex. And behind us, we had French Creek. And our boys, our two oldest boys, they'd spend hours down by the creek, flipping rocks, making things to sail, looking for snakes, trying to find tadpoles, crawdads. They'd be just having a ball. They'd be out there for hours. They'd run into the house, they'd grab something to eat, and they'd run back out and do it again. And nothing of it was, well, today when they got up, we're going to do this. That was sort of
unstructured play.
Outcome based, right? It was all about the process. It was all about doing it. And you know what was really great about watching those kids do those things is that we watched them and we let them get dirty. And I think as adults, we need to get dirty. We need to shed all this scaffolding that's been placed around us because we're old. We can't do that anymore. Oh, the last time I did that was, or boy, I wish I could, and just say, okay, I got to be smarter. I have to do it in moderation, but let's go out and just get dirty. Guys, what do you think?
I love
Let's do it.
I love it. Go play in the mud.
My screensaver on my iPhone is a picture of my 3-year-old Brooks grandson with dirt on his face coming off a hill. And I didn't know it'd be so emblematic of our conversation today, but I look at that and say, yeah, you know what? He looks really happy and he's got dirt all over his face.
Wow. Well, this has been great going down memory lane too a bit, as well as just sort of realizing that life is definitely not over. And there's still so many things that you want to do, but there's some things that you wanted to do that you need to do. And I thank you guys for sort of invigorating me a little bit about getting dirty and getting out there and doing some things, because we have to take these glasses off sometimes and pretend we're a kid and just go out and just see what happens and jump into something that you want to start it with, and you never know where it's going to end up.
Let's go.
Catch you next time on the Redirect Podcast.
Catch up on all the Redirect Podcast episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. To begin your redirect journey, head over to redirect-u.com. Want to connect with the Redirect team? Feel free to email us at info@redirect-u.com. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.